Boom, we are live. All right. Hello. All right. Welcome, Mr. Colin Clark, to Books by Adrian. I'm so happy to have you here, my friend.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to start off today talking about your excellent short story that won second place in the short story contest of Doom. I refuse to say the full name.
I can't say the full name.
I refuse. There's no way I'm ever doing it. I'm actually curious about the next one. I hear the next one is in October. I already started writing my short story because I need to get a leg up on the competition.
I think Kent's aiming for October, November with the next one, and it's going to have one to be 7,500, I think he said.
Good grief.
I'm one of the judges along with the brilliant Bethany Voltor, first place, and also third, fourth, and fifth place winners. Who also, the stories were excellent. They really
were. That's actually a genius move on Kent's part to make the winners of the last contest the judges of the next one. That's very smart.
Yeah, it's sneaky too. It means we can't enter.
Yes, and that way you can't win twice in a row. So also very smart.
But yeah.
Also very smart.
Good move.
Yeah, very much.
Something with prize money as well, but I don't know about that yet.
See, I don't even care about that. I just want the notoriety.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't care about the $50, but hey, I drank it.
Hey, $50 is $50, and that'll buy you a decent bottle of wine. That's for sure. That's for sure. All right, let's see if anybody's coming in here. So far, it looks like it's just Ginny. All right, now she's actually here. All right, welcome, Ginny.
Just a minute, I remembered something. Disconnect phone.
All right, you go right ahead. Excuse me.
That didn't take too long. Right, there we are. Done.
Wait, are you on a landline? Does a phone call disconnect your internet or something?
Yeah, I'm on landline. I switched my mobile off, but I forgot the landline. So
fair
I
enough.
have a 90-year-old mother who tends the phone.
See, I remember dial-up and getting a phone call to the house and getting knocked off the internet right in the middle of downloading whatever photo it was that took 9 hours. And, oh man. I'm glad those days are gone.
Screeching and stuff in your ear while you're doing it. Yeah, no, I haven't got anything like that. I just disconnected the landline.
Yeah, very good, very good. Oh, we've got people coming in. All right, my sister's here. Hi, Johnny. Orla's here. Hello, Orla. Welcome. Come on in.
Hi, Orla. Again.
Yeah, everyone. Janira in the chat here. The anime photo. That's my sister and my main editor. She is the reason that the chapters Colin has read turned out so good.
Oh, yeah, she's a cracking editor, really.
Yeah, she was a big help with those, for sure. So props to my sister. Right on. Hey, so Colin, about your short story. So it broke me. I was reading it last night, and the whole time you've got this dying old man who was a horrible, abusive father, and you have the son going through the whole turmoil of not only dealing with the father's death, but his feelings about it. I especially loved the touch where, despite how much he hated him, he still told him, "I love you." After he died, that hit me right in the feels. But then the twist, man. Whew, and I don't want to give it away because I actually want people to read it. Go to kenshawn.com and click on contest winners. Colin here won second place with his story. It is phenomenal. When you get to the twist, and like I said earlier before we started the official live stream, it really feels like almost a serial killer's origin story, for lack of a better description. So can you tell me a little bit about where this idea came from? Because it's written in the first person, and it is dark. And as a writer, I know that we go to those places, for entertainment. But where did that all come from for you?
Originally, I had the picture of the guy dying in hospital, and he wasn't a nice man, obviously. But it was going to be a ghost story at the bit where he died, his son and the mother and other children were going to be waiting for him to drag him off to hell. And I wrote it that way at first, but I didn't like it because it just didn't seem right. So being particularly dark-minded at times and serial killer mad, as many of us are, although we don't want to meet any, I suddenly thought, well,
I'm certainly guilty of that myself.
Yeah, what if the son really learnt more from his father than he actually intended to? And from there on, the minute I started writing like that, that last bit just came. I mean, it was just all together. The hardest bit for me is the memory bits where he's running down Lion Road.
Yeah, it really tripped me out because, like you said, he learned way more from his father than he should have. And you know, as a father, that's something that I'm afraid of myself, you know, like what I pass on to my son, and you know, the sins of the father and all that kind of stuff. So like trying to be the best you possible, especially around your children, so that they don't pick up your negative traits. But then when you're in that environment with that sort of an abusive father, and I mean, that's classic serial killer stuff right there. So
and that's what I thought. I mean, the minute you start thinking, all these serial killers tend to have similar backgrounds in many cases. And I thought, that sort of background, what are you going to turn out like? You're going to turn out a wee bit not the nicest person,
to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, and this guy's taking it to the next level. But you're right. It really. You've said it, and I'd never thought about it. That is a serial killer origin story. It
is. By the time that you make, you know, the twist towards the end, all the pieces kind of fall into place, and you go, "Oh, he checked all the boxes along the way," and I didn't even realize. The sister, for example, being the type that wanted to get away from that and ending up finding her own monster and marrying into that. I mean, how true to life is that? You know, how often do we?
Perennial victims. I mean, you do find, which is satisfying.
It was fantastic, man, and you know, I'm not always keen on first person narratives, so I had a little trouble with it at the beginning. I was like, oh, okay, it's a first person. Like I had to like sort of get into it, but by the time, like, you know, 5 paragraphs in, I forgot. You know, like it sucks you in. It really sucks you in.
I normally write. I don't. Me too. I don't like first person. But I thought, well, come on, the competition's there. Let's just do something I wouldn't do, which is first person. Now, of course, I've now written another one, which again is in first person. It's just, I must stop it.
Well, what's interesting with me is in my book, there's a serial killer, and as you know from the chapters you've read, every chapter changes point of view. And so when it came time to decide on the serial killer's point of view chapters, I decided, you know what, I'm going to write those in first person. Unlike the whole rest of the novel, I'm going to make those like journal entries. So that's something that I've put forth to challenge myself with the writing of my book is actually changing the not only the point of view but the narrative completely to first person narrative, just for the serial killer to really put you in his head and make you really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think that's what works well for my short story, and certainly in the chapters I've read of yours. At the moment, there is no first person. I haven't met a serial killer yet, but I'm looking forward to it. But I think first person was made for myself.
Yeah.
They're trying to get a grip on this twisted mind. And then you begin to get, even though you don't want to, a wee bit of sympathy for what made that person kill. Sympathy is not the right word. It's understanding, perhaps. You might see what little things happen to trigger that killer.
Yeah, and to be in the mind of such a sadist or such a disturbed character. I mean, that's just good. That's just good reading. You know what I mean? Like that's gonna throw people off.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable, and that's what I strive for, to make my readers uncomfortable.
Well, that's art.
Indeed. Indeed. I do want to thank you for reading my chapters. I haven't given those to too many people. I do have a few beta readers that I've sent a few chapters to, and then once I gained a little confidence, I found people were enjoying it. Then I stopped, and I'm now like finishing that first draft without showing anybody else anything further than chapter 5, and then maybe after the professional edit, I'll go back to the beta readers.
Well, I remember you saying, I think you've got 190,000 words.
That's the goal. Yeah.
And that's going to be one hell of a story. I mean,
it's a big one. It's a big one, and it's part 1 of 3. It's a trilogy, so it'll continue. But
looking forward to it, mate. Get it written.
I'm excited that you liked it, because, like I said, that's high praise coming from the great Colin Clark. Because I'm not even kidding. When you send me some positive feedback, that just lit a fire under my butt. I got right back to clickety clack.
Yeah, that's just why I wrote the short. Well, I worked on the short story again today. I was inspired. I mean, I love this, the fact that other people's writing, and when you see just how good it is, you think, turn the game up on RTP now, otherwise I'm going to get left behind.
You're a smoothie, Colin. You're a smoothie.
What do you expect?
Let's see what's going on in the chat. It says Ginny loves uncomfortable reads. She says, my sister says she loves the idea of the serial killer chapters being in the first person. The switch will be jarring and uncomfortable, which will make his words even more unsettling. That's the goal. That is definitely the goal. Plus, it'll be easier to keep the killer's identity secret for longer because the narrator won't be saying their name. Exactly. That was another selling point for me as well.
Yeah, it stops that reveal when you concentrate on the policeman rather than the killer. You give away that identity too early.
Yeah, and the whole mystery element of the book, and that you were following the detective. I don't want the audience to know before the detective. Mm-hmm. I also want the ability to have the killer in scenes without the reader knowing that he's there. So, for example, Colin, you've already seen him in a scene and you don't even know it. So that's the whole goal, is to just pull the wool over everyone's eyes.
But I mean, I've been doing a wee bit of research about serial killers in fiction, and wow, there's quite a few.
Yeah, I'll admit I didn't do any research, but that's only because I pretty much am always doing serial killer research. I didn't really have to. I mean, just before sitting down, I started thinking about, well, let's list off all of my favorite serial killers in fiction. And by the way, I'm throwing movies and television into this as well, not just literature. But starting from Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon, and going on to Hannibal the series, which, if you haven't seen, is outstanding.
I've seen several episodes, and it's impressive.
It's really good, and I especially love how it develops further on. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No. I said I like how it's seen. It really is nice and dark, and I think it builds on that character so much better than the two movies. I mean, the books I've got written down here always start with Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon. Mm-hmm. But then the next one is Darkly Dreaming Dexter, which is what Dexter's based on.
Yeah.
That guy is.
And I'll say that first book, Darkly Dreaming Dexter, is pretty much the only good one in my opinion. They only get worse from there, but I love that first book, and I love that first season as well, and how closely it adapted that first book. It did very well. The dark, sort of twisted humor in that series, both the show and the book, is just.
Yeah, I think the show really picks that out and says, "Yeah, we're gonna run with this because this is good."
Yeah, and talking about being inside the head of a serial killer, having his internal monologue going throughout the whole series, being inside his head, seeing Harry when he's seeing Harry, and that sort of thing, like that. All of that, just you know, for a regular audience watching this, yeah, it's stylized, it's cool or whatever. But for somebody who enjoys serial killers in fiction, that what it's saying about his psyche is actually very worrisome, and how fragile his mind is.
Beautifully done. I mean, it's never, yeah, it's over the top in places, but it never goes that step too far. It doesn't, it makes you uncomfortable, as the chap was saying earlier, but if you're like me and you love watching serial killer documentaries to the small hours and things, it's fairly tame.
Agreed. Have you, speaking of which, with the documentaries, have you watched the Ted Bundy documentary on Netflix, the 4-parter?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. It came out.
The Ted Bundy tapes one.
Yes, the Ted Bundy tapes.
Yeah, I've watched the Ted Bundy tapes one. But there's another one, I think it's Amazon at the moment, which is, I don't know, having a relationship with Ted Bundy or something. It's about some girl who wants to help him.
Yeah. Soon after the documentary, they put out the movie with Zac Efron, which I didn't enjoy as much because it's not as good, because it focuses very much on his trial and his public persona, which is all very interesting, but you don't get any of his actual, you don't get any of his killings. You don't get to see the real Ted Bundy. You only see what everyone else saw, and you're trying to figure out, who is this guy really? But you put on the Ted Bundy tapes, and I mean, just from the start, where the interviewer is explaining, giving him the recorder, and how he held it close and started speaking into it. It just gave me goosebumps and shivers up my spine.
The point being is, it's all part of Bundy. Everything. I think that's my short is masks.
Yeah. Exactly. That was something that coming back to Dexter, they did very well, where he had that mask on. In Hannibal, he calls it a person suit. He wears a person suit, and when he is no longer pretending, he explains that he has taken off his person suit, and you're just like terrified at the idea of Hannibal Lecter not wearing his person suit. And
it's that's so spot on. I mean, that's exactly what I was getting at, is the fact that, well, we all wear masks. I'm me on here, I'm me to my kids, my partner, and whatever else, and I'm a different me to people I work with or deal with. But we all wear masks, but most of them aren't quite, well, they're not covering up as much viciousness as some of these people, and yet they do it so well. Really. I mean, I was looking back on, as I said, did a bit of research, and I thought, well, when did psychopaths in fiction become a thing? So I thought, well, it's got to be Psycho, Robert Bloch. And then suddenly discovered, and I got it here, there was a book in 1952 called The Killer Inside Me by Jim Thompson. And I've read little snippets that were online. That is really, really...
I know that title. I feel like maybe it was adapted into a film, because I've heard that title.
I've not seen that either, but the book just sounds, oh wow, that guy was writing serial killers in the 50s.
I have a vague memory of watching that. I feel like it probably wasn't a very good adaptation, because I don't remember it very well, but I remember the title, and I remember that title being very, very enticing and provocative. The Killer Inside Me.
So I looked at that and I thought, yeah, I've got to get that book and read it. And of course, you got The Talented Mr. Ripley, which again is 55, according to my notes.
I mean, honestly, if you think all the way, Dracula was based off of Vlad the Impaler, so technically you can go as far back as that, or even further.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Egyptians or the Romans were too keen on not killing off all their relatives. So serial killers have been around as long as we have.
That's bananas. We have a question from Orla. What was there a particular serial killer or style of murder that was more interesting to you as you were writing? Why don't you take that one first, Colin, and then I'll go after.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, Orla, I think the type of serial killer and style of murder that was more interesting to me was one from somebody like Bundy, from somebody who appears so meek, also like Psycho. If you look at Norman, he's a really meek individual. You wouldn't think this guy's going to kill you. And especially when you've been part of a family where you've been beaten, bullied, abused, you're going to adopt whatever mask protects you from getting beaten again. But my guy actually stuck up for his little brother during this and took a lot of the beatings and things that he should have taken. And yet he became smaller by doing that. He didn't become big until he decided to follow in Daddy's footsteps, only outdo Daddy. It's got to be somebody you, like most serial killers, they're just normal, like the rest of us, until you discover the heads in their fridge.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You know, Ted Bundy was a big one for me as well. John Wayne Gacy was another one. These men who were almost pillars of their community. You know, they were well liked. They were friends of the police. You know, like nobody suspected anything from them. They were charming. If anybody ever talked about them, they would just describe them as normal.
Kemper was so popular with his local police. I mean, there's this humongous guy, soft-spoken Ed Kemper, couldn't hurt anybody. But as he said, he used to wonder, you know, with the girls, what their head would look like on the end of a stick.
And that's crazy because that's, you know, that image that everybody has of them is just their mask, their person suit. And that's what's incredibly fascinating to me about them in general, about serial killers in general, and what inspires my killer in my story is this idea of just the most normal-looking guy that you can imagine, the kind of guy that if a police officer is asking you to describe him later, you almost can't even describe him. You're like, well, you know, normal guy, normal height, you know, normal. That's what he looks like. He looks normal. He's so unassuming that he makes no impression on you until the day that he's, you know, chopping you up into pieces.
Yeah, it's a wee bit like Spies because, I mean, if I'm trying to think, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the fact that the guy in that is so ordinary looking. He's so ordinary looking. He's beige. If you're looking for color there's no color. It's just beige.
Yeah, he almost blends into the background, so to speak.
Yeah. Serial killers do. It's how they survive.
Yeah, it's their camouflage, their defense mechanism, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one I've been writing today, actually, I mean, the guy in that is 70. So, and yeah, okay, he's another killer. I can't help it. I like writing about him.
Hey, pretty much any story I've ever written has had one of these guys in it, and the older ones are really fascinating. You know, I'm thinking of the Trinity Killer from Dexter, where he'd been doing it for 30, 40 years, never been caught. You know, and that's more terrifying to me than a young killer in his prime, because he hasn't learned all those harsh lessons yet. He hasn't necessarily developed a foolproof method. But a man who's been doing it for 30 years and never caught, that guy is terrifying. Even if he is beyond his prime and you know, no longer the imposing presence that he used to be, he doesn't need to be, because he's smarter than you and he's more experienced than you. That's terrifying as well. So you know,
serial killers we know, but the ones we'll never know, because they're the ones that weren't silly enough to get caught, didn't escalate too much, but have carried on for years and years.
I was watching Mindhunter on Netflix, And Ed Kemper has a scene in that show where he's talking to one of the FBI guys, and the FBI agent is getting a little cocky about how much he knows about serial killers. And Ed Kemper reminds him that everything that he knows about serial killers, he learned from the ones who have been caught.
Yeah, exactly.
And that terrified me because I was like, oh my gosh, he's right. What about the ones that we don't even know are out there and won't know are out there? How about the ones that died and were never caught and we still don't know about them? You know? Terrifying.
Have the chat.
Yeah, let's take a look here. Either they are unassuming or they have a lot of charisma. There is no in between, says Ginny. Very, very much so. Yeah, they can be quite terrifying. Same with cult leaders. And that's really interesting when you look at guys like Manson, for example, who didn't do the deed with their own hands, but are so capable psychologically that they can get others to do their bidding.
People kill themselves because of your charisma.
Yeah. Again, the Trinity Killer, that was one of his methods, was literally to cause someone to kill themselves rather than do the deed himself.
Yeah.
Orla says it's really the scariest thing, breaks the social contract at the most basic level. That's really interesting, the social contract, the thing that we all sort of live by, the honor code, as we say. Yeah, and these guys who just live outside of that.
They don't accept it as a viable way of being, which is, it's a wee bit like, Aleister Crowley, the black magician from way back over here. Do as thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Basically, he believed everyone should do as they liked. But he didn't advocate actually killing people, although apparently he may well have done.
That's that's getting into some other stuff here where we could very easily talk about Cosby in this same sort of vein where he was hailed as the clean comedian, America's dad. He would put other comedians and artists down for cursing in their material, for example, and yet he was committing some of the most heinous crimes over and over and over again, to the point where he may be the most prolific serial rapist of all time. I can't think of anyone else who has raped more people than Bill Cosby.
And the point being is, it's because the social contract, society norms didn't apply to him. He was too famous. He was basically God, as far as he was concerned, and he'd never get caught. And thank goodness he did, but too late for a lot of people.
Way too late, at least for me. Yeah, that one hit really hard too for me because I was such a huge fan even as a kid. I have a very, very profound memory from elementary school. There was a talent show one year, and we're all little kids, so every kid up there doing their talent show is either singing a song or playing an instrument. That was it. The entire show was that. So me and my best friend, we decided, well, let's take the dentist skit from Bill Cosby himself. Let's split it up into two parts, and let's put in sound effects and props, and let's make it into a whole thing. And we did, and we killed. Everybody laughed their ass off in that room. We were in the paper because no one expected it. And it was this air of notoriety for us for a good year. We would go to family parties and they would ask us to do this bit. And then and then Bill Cosby turns out to be who he is, and I just like that memory is tarnished forever. And I know that that's small potatoes compared to what his victims went through, but that's kind of the point, is that he's, like you said, he was so much in the spotlight that he felt untouchable. And we all felt he was untouchable.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly dangerous, especially when it reveals the real monster inside. I don't feel like his fame turned him that way. That was always there. It just sort of unleashed it.
He was wearing his person suit. That was the point. And the fact over here we have Jimmy Savile and Rolf Harris and various other celebrities who I grew up with. And, even Gary Glitter, for instance. They're all in prison now for child molestation and various other crimes, apart from Jimmy Savile, who died before he could get caught. But it happens, and they were all celebrities. And over here, they were quite big. Obviously, never as big as Cosby.
It's hard to imagine anybody bigger than Cosby in terms of numbers.
Not at that time, for sure.
Yeah, and as far as we know, he's never killed anybody. But that question has been raised in my mind several times, because if he could get away with so much for so long, what has he gotten away with that we don't know about?
And how many of those victims may just have taken a way out that they found could end the pain? So, yeah, he's probably a killer as well.
That's a good point. How many people were driven to suicide by him? Those count as kill counts for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Terrifying. Let me take a look at the chat here. It says, my sister says she agrees about the older serial killers. They terrify her the most because they're suspected even less, and they've been killing for so long already. Ginny says they've perfected their methods. Exactly. They've gone through the whole journey to the point where now it's second nature to them almost. It's so scary.
Albert Fish is the one who comes to mind. I've always found him really scary. Just looking at the photos of the man. I mean, I don't know when that was. It's way back now. But sending letters to the parents of the little girl he'd eaten and fried in a frying pan and things like that. That is truly despicable evil. And yet he didn't care. He laughed. But then again, he pushed pins and things into his own body in various places. So, yeah, not a nice man. You've gone quiet again, Adrian.
Oh, my bad. I keep muting my mic so that I don't cut out your audio when you're talking.
Uh-huh.
There's a book that I'm a big fan of called My Life Among the Serial Killers by, I believe it was Helen Morris who wrote it. She was a clinical psychiatrist who interviewed a great many serial killers while they were in captivity.
Uh-huh.
And what I found really fascinating very early on is, again, this is a psychiatrist saying that the biggest thing that she took away from her time among the serial killers is that she cannot classify them as human.
Yeah.
They lack the empathy that makes us human. And that, in other words, they're beasts who hunt and kill.
Yeah.
And that's just for a scientist, a doctor, someone who analyzes the mind for a profession, to say that about another person, it speaks volumes to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's more the reptilian part of their brain that they're acting on.
Yeah, the lizard brain, as Dexter would say. Crazy. Says my sister asked, which serial killer in fiction or real life, if any, have truly terrified you, as in actually felt your skin go cold? First, right off the bat, freshest in my mind is Ted Bundy. Those Ted Bundy tapes, when you see him speak and his mouth is smiling but his eyes are dead, terrifying. That more than anything scares the hell out of me, because they for some reason the eyes give them away. They can't. There's no mask over the eyes. That's always the window to the soul.
Yeah, sort of like shark eyes. Just no soul.
Black pits just of death. Oh, terrifying.
I mean, one that's truly, all of them would truly terrify me if I met them. I mean, watching documentaries and reading about them.
As far as you know, you've never met them.
Well, yeah, as far as I know. And if I have, I'm still here, so we're okay. But Albert Fish, definitely. That photograph, very scary. Again, it's going to be Bundy. And, perhaps one more. Jeffrey Dahmer.
Dahmer is a big one. Dahmer is a
Because
big one.
that man didn't even seem to think he'd done anything wrong, even when he'd done it. It was just, oh, poor me. And that level of, well,
Paying the victim.
I'm just, what he did was disgusting. But the one that would scare me most of all would be Bundy, because I still guarantee, having known everything he's done, he could still get me in the side seat of that Volkswagen.
Not only that, but there's a moment in that documentary where I believe it was the police chief was speaking on Bundy, and he was recounting an encounter that he had with him, where Ted Bundy looked at him as far as what this person says. Ted Bundy looked at him and said, "You think that you have caught a killer with, numbers in the double digits across 3 states. What you might actually have is a killer who has numbers in the triple digits over 6 or 8 states, I believe he said." And just the idea that we really still don't have an accurate kill count for Ted Bundy, that he may be even more terrifying and prolific than we already think he is. Ted Bundy's the big one for me.
Yeah. I mean, the other one who would perhaps have been bigger for me was Israel Keys. You remember him with his kill kits dotted around the country? I don't think we'll ever know how many that man killed. That's all. I mean, he was. And
it's hard to know if we could ever have an accurate kill count on these guys.
Yeah. So that's the point. It's just, you look from one, you look to that, but what you're looking for is, I say this when I'm watching serial killer documentaries with my beloved, and I say to her, it's really terrible. We get no decent serial killers nowadays. It's always the same old ones. And she looks at me and says, are you really saying that? I said, well, no, but it would be, I don't know. Nice.
It's kind of a morbid thought, but I'm there with you. I love Zodiac, the movie Zodiac, for example, for that very reason, where it was such a public event, this serial killer being on the loose and toying with the police and all that. And of course, nothing like that happens nowadays. And I shudder to think that anyone could get away with doing that these days with all the technology that's going around and everybody has a camera in their pocket. But wouldn't that be incredible? Yes, terrifying and horrible and horrific, but kind of exciting if there was like a very public, serial killer like that.
I'm just dark by nature. I can't help.
Well, what's interesting is that in New York State, if I'm not mistaken, there's one that they've coined as the Staten Island Killer. They have found his dumping grounds, for lack of a better term, where he has buried quite a few victims, and they theorize that maybe he's a killer for the mob or for some sort of organized crime. But regardless, should classify as a serial killer as far as they know. And as far as I know, that's the only active one that I have found these days, and he's very low profile from what I can tell.
Well, over here we've got such a small country that ours tend to get found out usually quite quickly, apart from the Yorkshire Ripper that took many years. But there isn't the space here. The vast spaces of the USA and Russia, for that, for that example, is the fact there's so much space. There's so much place to bury bodies, to kill people. Over here, you're going to be back onto a CCTV camera and, a building up your backside before you get anywhere.
Yeah, the Midwest in the U.S. is a big serial killer area because it's just so many woods, so many mountains, just so much untouchable area that you really can't search very well, and it's perfect for that kind of stuff. And that stuff that's scary. But I don't know. I find it very interesting that America has a much higher number than most other places when it comes to serial killers. You would think that us being a newer country, historically speaking, that we would find more serial killer history elsewhere, but the bulk of it is here.
I think that's because we had the good sense to ship all the serial killers to you, as did Ireland and everywhere else.
Yeah,
A couple, but the Americans can have them. Right.
yeah. That's probably has a lot to do with it. Speaking of CCTV cameras and serial killers getting away with it, I've been watching Luther again. I don't know if you've watched that show.
No, probably 1 or 2 episodes.
I highly recommend it for a serial killer fan like yourself because especially the first season almost exclusively centers on serial killers. Every episode has a different one. And there's one episode in particular, I believe it's episode 5, if I remember correctly, that has one of my favorite depictions of just a very grounded, real world serial killer. He was a husband whose wife was being unfaithful. And when he found out and couldn't do anything about it, he snapped and he started killing. And his kills started getting closer and closer together. And he was just ramping up a little too quickly. And when he was finally caught, the episode explodes, and it's really, really interesting because he was a very meager, chubby little guy. You would never suspect him. His wife certainly didn't suspect him, and it's very, very realistic. And the interesting thing is, again, it taking place in London, CCTV cameras all over the place. How does one get away with such a thing? In his case, he was a taxi driver. Someone who is trusted on site implicitly by everyone. A taxi pulls up, you get in, and it takes you somewhere, and you just trust that this person is trustworthy. And this one wasn't.
I will look it up, definitely.
I recommend it. It's a good show. Orla says she loves Luther, so there you go. Another recommendation. My sister asks, have either of you watched the victim impact statements by those attacked by Joseph D'Angelo on YouTube, the Golden State Killer? I have not seen that. How about you? No? I will definitely look that up after this. Victim impact statements. That's interesting. So people who have survived him? Is that? Yeah, I'm gonna write that down too. Sis, why don't you tell us a little bit more about that while we gab a little bit here?
Oh, there we go. Done. Excuse me, I need a top up.
You go right ahead, my friend. Enjoy. It's on the Law and Crime Network YouTube channel, she says. It's so haunting. I will be checking that out. You know what? I am actually going to grab a glass of water myself. I'm feeling a little tickle in my throat. Yep. If you don't mind, I'll be right back.
Okay, I should just sit here and anybody else anything.
Yeah, and enjoy your wine for a moment.
Oh, yeah. So here we are, alone, while Adrian gets a drink, which he needs. I'm looking at the chat, not a lot happening. And he's back.
All right, I am back. What did I miss? All right.
Talking to myself.
I do that. Yeah, I needed the water. I didn't want to cough in everyone's ear. All right. The baby wants some attention, so everybody say hello.
Hey, hi.
This is Felix.
Wow.
He's a handsome little guy. I don't know where he gets his red hair from. I think we need a paternity test.
Hi, Felix.
Hi. All right, my sister says they streamed it live, and the victims or individuals speaking on behalf of the victims spoke about what he did to them, what it did to their lives, how they felt then, and how they feel now. Heartbreaking.
Wow.
That's really interesting to have, firsthand accounts like that of a serial killer. I can't wait to check that out. I can't believe you haven't told me about this before, sis. How dare you? I put him down and he got upset. Auntie Johnny says, hi, Felix. Orla says, hello, Felix. Everybody loves babies. All right. So I wanted to take a minute and let everybody know that the official Patreon launches on Tuesday the 1st, but there's kind of a soft opening going on right now. It's actually technically already launched. You can go there right now and sign up if you like. I already have one member. It is my sister, but I think that still counts. And the perks I feel are pretty cool and should continue to evolve as it goes further. I would love some feedback from you guys on those perks and what you think about them, what could be better, what I should add or whatnot. And the store has also launched, and you can get a cool discount by being a Patreon member. But I'll also be adding a coupon code into the description of this video during the playback, and you can use that for a cool discount in the store as well. So happy shopping to everybody, and I hope you'll become patrons.
And good luck.
Thank you very much. All right, here we go. It says serial killer and serial rapist, this guy. Good grief. Takes me the first part back up right in our conversation. Oh, so my sister did tell me about this, and I just missed it. So that's my fault. So, Colin, what are you working on these days?
I'm working on the short story collection, which I'm going to bring out hopefully next year, now that I've decided to do one. And I'm still working on my work in progress, which is the steampunk tale, which may be getting abandoned because I've been working 9 months on it. And I'm still not happy. I've completed the first draft, so what I might do is just let it lie fallow for a month and then pick it up again and start back on one of my other projects, which is a crime story.
Interesting. I wonder about that steampunk project. That sounds kind of cool.
But it's steampunk Cthulhu. So, but I think I put so much in the first draft, it's too much. I've mixed too many genres and lost track of what I was trying to say in the first place. So I really need to leave it for a month so I can go back in, read, and do what I did last time, was chop it down from 80,000 words to 40,000 and start again.
I've been in that boat where I start a project and get sort of carried away, so to speak, with everything that I'm putting into it. And when that happens, I always feel go back to basics, go back to your original outline before you got carried away with it. See what it was that you originally wanted to do, and just start ripping stuff out of it.
Yeah, but, I've obviously kept my original outlines and progressive changes throughout, so I know where I started, and I think that's it. Where I started was right. Where I've ended up, no, it's a hot mess basically at the moment.
Well, writing is rewriting, as they say. I'm looking forward to the short story collection, especially based off the one that I've read so far.
Yeah, it's doing well. I'm aiming for about 10 to 15 short stories for that, but I want at least 2 of them to be longer. Sort of 5,000, maybe even 10,000 words. So this week I intended to finish 3. I finished 1, and I've got the first draft down of 1 other, and some notes on the 3rd one. So yeah, hopefully next few weeks.
Very cool. Very cool. Any particular genre, or will each short story have their own? What's up?
I'm going for the title which I used earlier, which is Masks. which I think is what the short story collection will be called at the moment, working title, because it is all about masks. Yeah, it's still quite dark. There will be killers. Oh,
I would expect nothing less.
yeah, psychopathic angels and things like that. So, yeah.
I'm already sold. I'm already in.
I may ask you to read a couple of them before they get second drafted. So,
I would be more than happy to do so. Anytime. Don't even ask. Just email them as they're ready. Just send them to me, and I'm on.
Will do. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'll be. Like I said, I sent you chapters 4 and 5. You know, get to those whenever you can. I know that you're busy.
Yeah, that'll be tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Nice and quick. I like it. And then I'm working on a short story for the next contest whenever that does come around. And within the last couple of days, the lovely and amazing Orla, who is currently in our chat, is putting together a sort of flash fiction collection of author tubers. So we're all going to write a very short, 1,000-word story, and then narrate it or do an audio version of some sort to put on our YouTube channels all on the same day, and connect everybody together. So check out her Instagram for more details on that. And I believe she's also put up a video on her channel about that as well. And
I mean, I know she's the font of all knowledge. She answered that question last week when she was on. And I see Ola in practically every live stream I attend. So you're busy.
I don't know how she does it. She shows up to every single one. Orla, what do you do for a living? How are you at every live stream all the time?
No, she's not answering.
She'll get to it. She's here. She's always here. To Orla.
I'll second that. To Orla.
So that's what I'm working on right now, is the short story for the contest, the flash fiction for that video, and then of course my novel that's a work in progress. According to my Dabble account, I'm about 32% through writing that novel. So chugging right along.
Cute guy. But yeah, I mean, I was also thinking. I mean, I attended Bethany's live stream the other night, which was Flash Fiction Friday. I nipped into there, but I missed that. Yeah, I've never written flash fiction, so I had to look it up, and then realised that the short story I was working on was in fact 1,047 words, so it would probably count, but it's now up at 1,400. I'm trying to extend it.
Yeah, it's growing. It's growing into a short story. But yeah, I didn't know about flash fiction either. And she was at my last live stream, Bethany was, and she was talking about it, and she, rather than saying flash fiction, just said the word flash and completely threw me off because I didn't know what she was talking about.
Yeah, it's probably a superhero series on TV.
Yeah, so once she explained, I was like, "Oh, you can do that. You can write a story that's only 1,000 words. Like, who does that?"
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do that, but then I have to extend it just to make a story. But yeah, that second short story about the old guy, it came out 1,047 words, and I just thought it told the story beginning to end, but I have to do something else. You have to tease that out a wee bit just to make it interesting. Sure.
So, wait, what was the final word count on that short story then?
Now, at the moment, it's at 1,400 so far. I may work on it again tomorrow, but I really don't see. It doesn't need anything else. It tells the story. So.
Yeah, if it's good, it's good. Don't.
It's good, but it's good enough for me, so that'll do. Yeah.
I'm sure it's better than you claim, but that's a problem with me, is getting to a point where the story has told itself, but because of the word count or whatever, I feel like it needs to be longer, and then I mess with it, and then I ruin it. So it's like once you get it to the point where you have told the story, hey, you've told the story, however many words it is.
You may well be getting both versions tomorrow in the mail. So, I mean, email, obviously.
I would welcome them. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I'd like your opinion. Just tell me. Honestly.
My wife is giving me snacks. Nice.
You're ruined. This is what it is. Spoiled.
She's showing off for the camera. She's not usually this nice to me. She wants the world to know she's a good wife. It's good. Thank you. No, just the one. Yeah, she's spoiling me. So, how long have we been on here? An hour. This is pretty good.
Really? Only an hour.
I know, right? It's flown by for me. Hey, Felix.
Well, bear in mind, last week we actually spent 25 minutes talking to each other. So, yeah, it's been good this week.
Yeah, this is nice. Was there anything else you wanted to cover today?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Other than to encourage more people to visit these live streams with Books by Adrian. Unfortunately, my fan base is fairly small, as you may have noticed. So, hey ho. But yeah, no, I'm quite happy. I think it's gone well. We discussed what we wanted to.
I agree. Before we go, let's go ahead and list off a couple of our favorite serial killer stories. I wanted to throw out there that the movie Zodiac is one of my favorites. The book Red Dragon over the movie. I prefer the book.
Yeah, the book's better.
The book is so good. But to that point, the adaptation of Red Dragon for the show Hannibal, which is season 3, is actually quite good. And I hold it over the movie. Dexter, of course. And then what was the girl with the dragon tattoo has an excellent serial killer story. That's a really, really good one. And then the David Fincher film is it's a masterpiece in my opinion.
I adore the book and the film. But the original and the newer one.
I actually prefer the newer one, but I'm a big David Fincher fan. I again, he did Zodiac. I eat all his stuff up. So 7, I mean, I could keep going on and on with him. How about you?
About me, I'm looking at my little list. I think, yeah, favorites definitely going to be Red Dragon, the book. With the Tooth Fairy, just slightly above Psycho by Block. Movie, TV show wise, Dexter, yes, I've already said that is just brilliant. Haven't watched enough of Hannibal yet to really. And The Bone Collector. I loved the book, The Bone Collector, and the movie with Angelina Jolie wasn't half bad. It had Denzel in. It can't be that bad.
But the book is very, very good. I agree. That's a good one.
The ending in the book is so much nastier than the ending of the movie. And I mean, basically rips his throat out, which is great. And I've got one more, which is this one, which I've just started reading, but I've read the reviews of, which is The Devil's Star by Joe Nesbo, who wrote The Snowman, which is about a serial killer. Very similar to Stieg Larsson in the way it's written. So I haven't finished this one yet, but so far it's quite good. So yeah, that'll be about it for me.
And on that note, you actually reminded me of one more. For those of you who have watched Luther, the very first episode begins, the very first scene, with Luther catching a serial killer that he had been hunting, who had killed very young girls, and Luther allows this killer to fall, presumably to his death, and that, of course, goes under investigation. And Luther has to step away from being a cop for a while, and the series picks up with him coming back from that leave of absence. I bring this up because the creator of the show wrote a novel also called Luther, which actually explores that case, the serial killer that he catches at the very beginning of the series. So therefore, the book literally ends with the final scene of that book is the first scene of the series.
The opening scene to Luther.
And the book is fantastic. I highly recommend it for another great serial killer read.
Take it down, because I'm always up for a serial killer read.
It's a good one. Colin, this has been fantastic. We're literally at 1 hour now, so I think this is perfect.
That's real.
Thank you so very much for being here today. Thank you so much. I will have you on again as soon as I can.
Thanks for inviting me. Really, it's been a pleasure.
And anytime you'd like to have me on yours, I'm game for you.
Yeah, once I make a new video, I realize I haven't made one for a month. It's about time I did a couple.
Same here. My last 3 videos are all live streams, so I need to put it. I am actually working on 3 videos at the moment. I'll close out with that. Number 1, I am doing a welcome video for the Patreon, which I will launch on Tuesday. Number 2, I am doing a video that will sort of discuss the book that I'm writing now that the teaser trailer and the title have been revealed. I want to sort of start up a dialogue about what the book is actually about. And then the 3rd video that I'm doing is real life serial killers and how they influence my book. So it will be a very good companion to this particular live stream.
I'll be watching those, all of them, especially anything about the spark. I'm there.
I love it. It's all coming soon. Thank you very much, Colin. Thank you, everybody in the chat.
Everybody for watching.
This was great fun. You guys have a great day.
Good night, mate.
Good night, Colin.